Franklin Templeton, a $1.5 trillion asset manager, just quietly updated their XRP filing with the SEC, and 99% of XRP holders have absolutely no idea what just changed. This is not another generic institutional interest story. This filing creates a direct path from where XRP sits right now to a level that most people are not even considering. If you are holding any amount of XRP and you miss what is happening with this filing, you could be sitting on the sidelines during the single biggest institutional catalyst of the entire year. By the end of this video, I am going to show you exactly what 1000 XRP could be worth if Franklin Templeton's filing leads where the data suggests it is heading, and the numbers are going to surprise you. Let me set the stage for you, because this is not just about one filing. Franklin Templeton is not some small hedge fund trying to ride a crypto wave. This is a firm managing $1.5 trillion in assets. They were one of the first traditional asset managers to launch a Bitcoin ETF. They were one of the first to put a government bond fund on a public blockchain. And now they have turned their attention squarely to XRP. What happened is this. Franklin Templeton updated their S-1 registration filing with the SEC for an XRP trust product. This is the type of filing that directly precedes an ETF approval, and the timing could not be more significant. With 7 spot XRP ETFs already trading and combined assets under management sitting at approximately $1.6 billion, Franklin Templeton entering this space adds an entirely new level of institutional credibility. Tell me in the comments right now, what is your XRP price target for the end of this year? Drop one number below. I want to see where this community actually stands. But here is the part that almost nobody is talking about. Franklin Templeton has a track record of only filing for products they believe will get approved. Their Bitcoin ETF launched successfully. Their Ethereum exposure products are live. They do not file speculatively. When this firm puts an S-1 in front of the SEC with XRP on it, they have done the homework. And that changes the entire equation for every single holder. So let me walk you through exactly what this filing means and why it matters more than you think. The document is an amended S-1 registration statement. In plain English, this is the legal paperwork required to create a regulated investment trust that holds XRP. This is the same type of filing that Grayscale, Bitwise, and 21 Shares used before their XRP products launched. But Franklin Templeton brings something fundamentally different to the table. They bring the single largest asset management brand to ever put their name directly on an XRP product. Here is what this means. If you are holding 1000 XRP right now, the moment a firm of this size enters the XRP ETF space, it creates a gravitational pull for capital. Pension funds, endowments, and wealth management platforms that would never touch a Bitwise or 21 Shares product suddenly have a familiar name they trust. Franklin Templeton is a household name in institutional finance, and when household names validate an asset, the money follows. Now think about the numbers for a moment. Before the spot Bitcoin ETFs launched, Bitcoin was trading around $30,000. Within 12 months of ETF approval, it had more than tripled. The inflows from just the first 6 months were over $17 billion. XRP's entire market cap right now is roughly $120 billion. If even a fraction of that ETF effect hits XRP, the price impact would be enormous. And here is a question you should be asking yourself right now. If Franklin Templeton's filing gets approved, do you honestly think the price of XRP stays where it is? Let me show you why the timing of this filing is so critical. Right now, there are 7 spot XRP ETFs already approved and trading in the United States. Combined, they hold approximately $1.6 billion in assets. That sounds like a lot until you compare it to Bitcoin ETFs, which hold over $60 billion. XRP ETFs have captured less than 3% of what Bitcoin ETFs pulled in during their first year. That gap is not a problem. That gap is your opportunity. If you are holding 1000 XRP at today's price of roughly $2, your position is worth about $2,000. But here is what most people are not calculating. Franklin Templeton's entry into the ETF space could trigger what analysts call the institutional cascade effect. One major name files, then wealth managers add it to model portfolios, then pension consultants recommend allocation, and suddenly the demand side of the equation changes completely. If this data is opening your eyes right now, hit that like button because more people need to see this. The SEC has a defined review period for these filings. Based on the amendment timeline, Franklin Templeton's XRP product could receive a decision within the next 60 to 90 days. That puts us right in the middle of what could be the most significant approval window for XRP since the original 7 ETFs launched. And do not forget, the Clarity Act is working its way through the Senate right now with approximately 70% odds of passage this year. If that passes before or around the same time as Franklin Templeton's approval, you are looking at a regulatory and institutional double catalyst that almost never happens in this space. Here is what this means for your stack specifically. If Franklin Templeton's entry drives even $5 billion in new ETF inflows over 12 months, the math on XRP's price changes dramatically. At current supply levels, $5 billion in fresh institutional demand could push XRP toward the $5 to $7 range conservatively. But before I give you the full price breakdown, you need to understand why Franklin Templeton specifically matters more than any other firm that could have filed. In 2023, Franklin Templeton became one of the first traditional asset managers to put a United States government money market fund on a public blockchain. It was called the Franklin On-Chain US Government Money Fund. That fund now manages over $400 million. This was not a press release. This was real money on a real blockchain. Then they launched their Bitcoin ETF. It pulled in hundreds of millions in its first months. Then came Ethereum exposure products. Each step was calculated, each step was deliberate, and each step succeeded. Now they have filed for XRP. The pattern tells you everything you need to know. Franklin Templeton does not throw filings at the SEC to see what sticks. They file when they believe the regulatory environment supports approval. Code. If you need an exchange to trade XRP with no KYC and a $30,000 sign-up bonus, link is in the description. That is WEEX. The fact that they are moving on XRP right now, with the Clarity Act advancing through the Senate and 7 ETFs already trading, tells you they see something the average retail investor is still sleeping on. And when a $1.5 trillion asset manager sees something, the smart move is to pay very close attention. Here is what this means if you are holding 1,000 XRP. You are not just holding a cryptocurrency anymore. You are holding a position in an asset that one of the world's largest asset managers has decided is worth building institutional infrastructure around. That changes the risk profile entirely. Now let me give you the numbers everyone came here for. I'm going to give you 3 scenarios because nobody can predict exactly what happens next. But the math in each case is clear. Scenario 1, the conservative case. Franklin Templeton's ETF gets approved and draws moderate inflows of around 3 to 5 billion over 12 months. XRP's price responds proportionally to new demand against existing supply. In this scenario, XRP moves toward $5 to $7 per coin. Your 1,000 XRP goes from roughly $2,000 to between $5,000 and $7,000. That is a 2.5 to 3.5x return from one institutional catalyst. Scenario 2, the moderate case. Franklin Templeton's entry triggers the institutional cascade. Other major firms follow with their own products. Total new ETF inflows reach 10 to 15 billion over 18 months. Combined with the Clarity Act potentially passing and Ripple's existing partnerships with Deutsche Bank, MasterCard, and Hidden Road, XRP pushes toward $10 to $15. Your 1,000 XRP becomes $10,000 to $15,000. Do you think Franklin Templeton's ETF gets approved before the end of summer? Comment yes or no below. I want to see exactly where this community stands right now. Scenario 3, the aggressive case. This is where things get really interesting. If Franklin Templeton's filing triggers a wave of institutional adoption that coincides with the Clarity Act becoming law, Ripple's Hidden Road handling $3 trillion in annual volume, and Swift's 11,000 bank network incorporating XRP settlement, the price could push toward $20 to $30 within the next 18 to 24 months. 1,000 XRP in that scenario is worth $20,000 to $30,000, and that does not even account for the potential supply shock from XRP escrow releases being fully absorbed by institutional demand. Here is what this means for you specifically. In all three scenarios, the math favors holding. The question is not whether Franklin Templeton's filing matters. It clearly does. The question is how much it matters. And the data from every previous institutional ETF filing suggests the answer is significantly more than most people are pricing in right now. So let me bring this full circle. Remember what I showed you at the beginning about Franklin Templeton's filing that 99% of holders missed? Here is what it means for your position. A firm managing $1.5 trillion has put their name on an XRP investment product with the SEC. They have a perfect track record of launching products they file for. 7 XRP ETFs are already live. The Clarity Act sits at 70% approval odds. The regulatory path is clearer than it has ever been. If you are holding 1,000 XRP right now, your conservative upside is $5,000 to $7,000. Your bullish upside is $20,000 to $30,000. Those are not fantasy numbers. They are based on the same capital flow patterns that played out with Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. One concrete action you can take right now: evaluate whether your current bag size reflects the size of this opportunity. 1,000 XRP at $2 is a $2,000 position. That is the kind of entry point people look back on 5 years from now and either celebrate or deeply regret. This is not financial advice, but the institutional data speaks for itself. If this breakdown helped you see the bigger picture, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you do not miss the next update when Franklin Templeton's filing gets its SEC decision. I cover XRP at this level every single day with real data and real analysis, not hype. And if you want to see what happens when we combine Franklin Templeton's filing with the Clarity Act timeline and Swift's 11,000 bank integration, check out this video right here. That one connects all the institutional pieces together. I will see you there.